let's take a look back for a second and see how we got here. 13 Reasons Why Season 1 brought us this idea of understanding the consequences of your actions. When you make fun of that guy or you spread rumors about that girl, like you never really know how far it can go and where it's all going to end up. Season 2 takes us into the courtroom where Jessica is trying to put Bryce in jail for what he did to her. And as we come to find out, Hannah Baker and who knows how many other girls in school. The undercurrent of this story is that everyone knew what Bryce was doing, but because of some kind of bro code or sports jock privilege or whatever you want to call it, no one spoke up until now. Season 2 also ends with Bryce getting basically no punishment whatsoever, and so at the time, it seems like all these girls sharing their stories was for nothing. And this brings us to Season 3, where Bryce is found murdered, and given the circumstances, all the main characters are suspects. Throughout the third season, the show keeps asking us this question: how far is too far for redemption? As is typical for this show, we keep flashing back and forth between the past and the present, learning all the reasons why characters did what they did or why they think a certain way. Now, during these flashbacks, we get to know a very different Bryce than what we've seen pretty much the entire show up to this point. We've seen the rich, popular kid who did whatever he wanted, but here he is trying to make amends for his actions. He works to fix his relationship with his mom, he offers to help Tyler with what Monty did to him in Season 2, he goes to therapy and tries to really understand what it is he did to so many people. But every time he tries to do what he thinks is the right thing, the world seems to never let him be anything more than what he already is. And so in the present day, when his body's found at the bottom of a river, the characters, and by extension us, are all left to wonder if, given enough time and effort, he could have actually ever redeemed himself. Again, the question is, how far is too far for redemption? So in concept, the third season of 13 Reasons Why is a sort of experiment, I guess, in humanizing the people we would otherwise just write off as horrible monsters. Which seems like an odd choice in the world of today, when we constantly hear about Bryce Walkers in Hollywood, in the games industry, companies, politics, seemingly everywhere. And, as has become the norm for this show, 13 Reasons Why still doesn't seem like it knows what it really wants to be. The show calls itself a realistic portrayal of real teen issues today, which is great, but it also wants to be a typically exaggerated, overly dramatic look at adult 30-somethings who are still in high school for some reason. One big example of this was the ending. In the final episode, we learn that Alex was the one who threw Bryce into the river, causing him to drown. So all the main characters come together with an elaborate lie to pin the murder on Monty, so that way Tyler can get some justice for what happened to him, and Monty's a jerk anyway, so hey, who cares, right? Now, as a teen drama, this is fun and exciting to watch, how they plant the evidence and trick the police and getting to watch it all play out. The problem is, this goes against everything the show was about up to this point. Throughout the entire run, but especially the third season, the main theme has always been about uncovering the truth. What really happened on those tapes? What did Bryce Walker really do? If we take a look at Jessica, for example, her main motivation throughout the whole season was about fighting against sports jocks who defend and lie for their friends even when they know what they're doing is wrong. She makes it very clear that she wants people to own up to and pay for their actions. And just because someone is your friend or your bro or whatever doesn't make them immune. But then, at the very end of the show, Jessica does exactly that. She lies for and defends Alex, even though he murdered Bryce, because Alex and Jessica are friends. So Jessica's entire character arc is basically almost meaningless. Everything she was fighting for, everything she believed or said she believed, turns out to be nothing when she's put in the same situation. Now, maybe that was supposed to be the point. Maybe we're supposed to see that good and bad are always relative, and it's all about context or something like that. But if that's the case, then what's the point of anything in the show? Another problem that I, and seemingly everyone else had, was the new character Ani. Now, fundamentally, I think having a new kid at school who observes everything from the outside with a sort of objective point of view is a great idea. But Ani is the most bafflingly ridiculous character I've seen in quite a while. Her main role is to let us into Bryce's life because her mom works as his new family caretaker, so Ani and Bryce live in the same house and they interact with each other rather often. Over the drawn-out 13 episodes of the show, we learn exactly nothing about Ani's character. We get no backstory, no real depth of any kind. She just exists to be slightly annoying all the time. By the end of the season, she becomes this almost comically superpowered, all-knowing omnipresence who can just somehow be anywhere at any time. But I guess my biggest issue, and what I think is the biggest problem with 13 Reasons Why Season 3 in particular, but really any show like this, is by its very nature, it glorifies or glamorizes the idea of going through a traumatic experience. Now, it doesn't do this directly, but What becomes very apparent in this season is the only thing interesting about most of these kids is how flawed and messed up their lives are. Everyone is defined by the worst thing that happened to them. So once you remove their various traumas or issues or addictions or whatever, there's almost nothing left to care about. And so the whole show has this, I assume, unintentional theme that having these heavy issues and going through these kinds of experiences is the only way to be an interesting person, or going through these things isn't that big of a deal because everything turns out okay in the end anyway. Now, I'm not saying that those experiences don't have value, because they most certainly do, and they're very real issues for a lot of people. But just speaking of the show itself, 13 Reasons Why, it seems like almost every time we meet someone who's actually interesting by their own merits, they just kind of end up being a side character who only shows up for a brief moment, like Jeff Atkins in season 1 or Charlie St. George from season 3. I think it would have made for a much more interesting show if, for example, we'd gotten to know Charlie parallel to everything else going on. We could see that not every sports jock is Bryce Walker, that if you stopped hanging out with people who put you in certain situations, your life would be infinitely less complicated. But instead, we're just left with more reminders that the world is terrible and everyone is suffering, and apparently I was the only kid in high school with acne, but that's a different conversation. This video is brought to you by Audible. One of the core messages of 13 Reasons Why is listening. If we all just listen more, maybe the world would be a little better. And there's no better way to listen than with Audible. Audible has the biggest selection of audiobooks available anywhere. And if you sign up now using my link down below, you can get a 30-day free trial that comes with 1 free audiobook and 2 free Audible originals just for signing up. Audible originals, as you can probably guess, are audiobooks or audio entertainment that you can't find anywhere else. And every month you continue to get 1 free audiobook regardless of price, and 2 free Audible originals with your subscription. And let's say one month you forget to claim your free audiobook, it rolls over to the next one, so now you get 2 free audiobooks that month, and so on. I personally would recommend the book Atomic Habits, because like in the show 13 Reasons Why, it's easy to fall into and continue bad habits that feel comfortable but ultimately take you further from where you want to be. So if you want to move to that city or learn that skill or start that thing you've always been putting off, but for some reason you just can't quite do it, it all starts with taking your bad habits and replacing them with good habits that help you be a better person. And Atomic Habits can help you learn how to do exactly that. And here's the thing, every audiobook you buy, or even the ones you get for free, are yours to keep forever, even if you cancel your subscription. So you really have nothing to lose. Go to audible.com/Alex Meyers or text Alex Meyers to 500-500 and get your free audiobooks by signing up to Audible. The third season itself is just not very good in general. I mean, the show's never been great, but at least season 1 had like a clear kind of thesis and a structure and like it made sense. But here in the third season, it's just having the same characters go through the same issues now for a third time around. It's just, I don't know, it's hard to really care that much, I guess, in a way. Because every character has so many issues, it's like none of them are really taken that seriously, and it's just like, it's kind of like a monster of the week, but instead of being a vampire, it's like, oh, drug addiction or whatever. And so it's like every episode is just another issue for another kid, and sometimes we go back to the same kid who has like 2 or 3 other issues as well. Another kind of big issue I have with the show, and this has been since the first season, I thought this was weird, it's supposed to be about kids today and real teen issues in today's world. But everyone's life is like completely or incredibly analog. You know, they're listening to cassette tapes and like people only use their phone once in a while. No one ever uses the internet for anything. It's just like having, you know, a show in 2019 where the internet and technology seems to not exist. What universe is this show supposed to take place in? Because it's certainly not this one. Anyway, thanks for watching. Follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.